Come in, Ocean Sailor. Come in, Ocean Sailor.
The Ocean Sailor Podcast. Brought to you by Ocean Sailor Magazine and Kraken Yachts.
Well, hello and welcome to Ocean Sailor Podcast, episode 11. We're back. We've been off air. You haven't heard us for a while. And Dick Beaumont has been absent without leave. So, Dick, you'd better explain where you've been.
Yeah. It's been absolutely manic, Dick, and I apologise to all the listeners because it's been a much longer gap than we intended. But to be honest with you, since the Millennial Falcon videos went out, and we've other publicity about Kraken Yachts. It's been crazy. I mean, the inquiries after the Millennial Falcon videos went out, the inquiries went, really off the scale. And to be honest, we couldn't cope. I mean, we got that many people. Yeah, it was bizarre, Dick. I mean, I had people calling me, messaging me, telling me fantastic, great stuff. Glad to see somebody's building proper boats and all that. And something had to suffer, and I'm sorry, listeners, but it had to be the podcast that had to suffer because I just couldn't find the time. I spent most of this time in Turkey. So
batten down the hatches, yeah.
Battening down the hatches, yeah. I mean, that interest has still continued, absolutely apace. It would seem that, how can I put it, the Emperor's new clothes brings to mind, because it suddenly seems that people have realised it doesn't matter whether they're going to sail across an ocean or sail offshore. They should be de-risking everything they do in the boats that they buy, and it's just been crazy for us. So fantastic for us, and sorry for the listeners, but hopefully we'll make it up.
No, I was going to say, so we old greybeards then, those of us who still use quills and ink pots. It's good night Vienna, and it's over to people, the younger generation, like Trist, with the moving image.
I got to tell you, Dick. I'm not a child of the technical age. Neither are you. But to be honest, the volume and the impact and the traction, you'd say, of the stuff that we did on the videos has made me wonder if the sailing media doesn't have to change a hell of a lot quicker than it already is, and move online and indeed on video.
Yeah, it's definitely got to grasp the nettle, and a lot of them haven't done that. I mean, that's been obvious for quite a long time now. When the Mail, the Daily Mail, the London newspaper, did grasp the nettle of the internet, and its online presence is now I think one of the largest in the world. So
there's no doubt about it. It's the way the game is. Social media. Oh, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, social media has offset that monstrously, and of course that's what we're doing here, aren't we, Dickie? You and I are dragging ourselves into the social media century.
But I understand that, Dick, you even had an offer of marriage as a result of this film. Is that right?
I did. Virtually, anyway. It was, over a beer, I'll tell you, Dick, and it's been really, it's surprising. It surprised me, I must tell you. It has really surprised me. Not the boats. That, of course, that was the idea from the beginning, but the impact that the social media has on,
to get the message out.
It's just enormous. So
I mean, the thing is that I was always, from the day one, and that's why I kind of bought the razor blades, if you like, thought that the Kraken, once you described it to me, once I really understood what you were driving at, I couldn't see how it could fail. And I've said this to many people. If you're going to get one, if you want a blue water yacht, all right, I would say this now, wouldn't I, sitting here? But I really do mean that. Why would you get one from anywhere else? Makes no sense to me.
Well,
well,
that's nice of you to say that, Dick. And of course, it's horses for courses. We've talked about that before. But anyway, look, let's get on and get Adam on air, because you missed out. You were on the missing list yourself when I did the follow-up podcast with Adam and Khiara. And, you know, they're a beautiful couple. I mean, they really are. They're really smart. They really know what they're talking about. And right on the money, you know, they know what they're doing. And they put it across very well. So, yeah, I wanted to do that as a follow-up for all the Millennial Falcon stuff. But as I said to you, it's you know, the whole thing now is a massive ball that is rolling. But have a listen to it, because this interview or podcast, I should say, because afterwards I'm going to tell you a few other things, Dick, about other things that have occurred. So we'll bring them in.
I'd look forward to that. Looking forward to it. Good stuff.
So welcome, Adam and Khiara. It's great to see you guys again. It's only a few days, of course.
Hello.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. It was very hard. I very begrudgingly came back to our boat. I very much considered stealing Sophie Marie and making for the furthest latitude possible.
Yeah, well, she, as you can see, she's just through the window, saloon window behind me. I'm on White Dragon at the moment. Yeah, she didn't manage to do a very good job of stealing away in the night, so I'm pleased to say that. But yeah, anyway, it's great to have you back on. It seems things have been a bit hectic. You know, started off, of course, with you giving me a call and flying over to the UK, and yeah, it's been pretty bloody cool, I must say. And it's really nice to see that you're now back on Millie, and of course, as I look behind you, I could see some sort of styling and finishing that's very familiar to me, because one of the amazing coincidences of us all getting together is, of course, the boat, after your careful selection process that you carried out, is in fact a Tayana 42 milli, right? A canoe stern.
Yeah.
And
Centre cockpit.
Yeah, centre cockpit, all ticking all the right boxes. And I sailed, prior to having White Dragon, a very large part of my sailing life, of course, also on a Tayana. It was a Tayana 58. So yeah, we've got a great deal in common. The reason I really wanted to talk to you guys in the first place, and when you first gave me that call, Adam, is I must confess to being pretty intrigued about how this has come about for you, or the conclusions that you're heading down, and all the rest of it. Because I must tell you, and I think I did tell you when we were together, in my day and at your age, actually there was stacks and stacks and stacks of good advice, but everybody kind of knew that if you're going to go off and sail around the world, the first thing was you had to have a bomb-proof boat. It was absolutely, but everybody knew it. I mean, nobody tried to tell you anything different. But what's intrigued me, as I said, is that now you're in my same age group as I was back then, but now 40 years move further forward, or so, maybe or so, and you know, I know that the advice and the information around you is really quite the opposite. It's no, that'll be okay. It's got a bolt-on keel and it's got an unprotected rudder. But no, go on. You know, everybody does this. And yes, it's still a blue water boat. And I'm intrigued to know how you filtered through what I'm going to say and be explicit about was all the bloody bullshit, and how you actually wound up coming to the right. You know how it is with me. I'm going to tell it how it is. It's, and it is dreadful bullshit.
I haven't picked up on that. No.
It is, yeah.
And so, how did you filter through all of the, you know, misinformation and the sales pitches and the rubbish that's talked? How did you actually then, you know, find that all down, and massively to your credit, you actually made the right choices? And I think it's half of a miracle. I honestly do think it's half a miracle.
Well, I think, to be honest, we knew that we had to go secondhand, so straight off the bat, sales pitches at boat shows just were not for us. No. We couldn't go there and afford a brand new boat, so we were like, okay, what research can we do online?
So we missed a whole bunch of the misinformation, I guess,
Yes.
you would
Yeah, I guess you
otherwise
did,
be fed. So we were coming at it from perhaps a less skewed position than people with a much larger bank balance.
But in saying all that, our first boat that we really, really liked, and this was about a year to us even leaving, we fell in love with, was like a Hunter 39. And we fell in love with it because, and, just looking at the ads, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like, oh, so wide, and look how many beds there are, and oh, the bathroom is so white, and oh, it's so lovely. And then I think after a little while of us being in love with this boat, we started to obviously go past the pictures and look at the reviews and look at everything that was saying about it. And I think that's where we started to learn about what some boats are capable for and what some boats aren't.
And that plays right into my wheelhouse, because I was, we, much to the dismay of our previous employers, we did spend a fair bit of time at work looking for boats prior to
and of course here you go, Adam. I think what's given you must have been a terrific amount of a leg up and a head start on this quest is, of course, your background is in aerospace engineering. So,
yeah.
you know that if it looks like it will break, it probably will break. and you don't have to, perhaps you didn't. Did that help?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's so we initially just started looking at a very surface level, and we came up with all these, I would send Khiara anything from a tall ship to a Hunter 38. But then we really started drilling down and as what I used to do as an aerospace engineer was fatigue assessments and damage tolerance for military helicopters.
Yeah.
And one of the major things about airplanes, and it's mostly because of weight and fuel balancing and whatnot, is that all aircraft are built with a mission profile in mind, maybe a couple if they're a real versatile platform. And so I was hyper aware of the compromises that need to be made when you're trying to satisfy a mission profile, that you just can't have everything. And then on top of that, all of that is sort of compounded by, how different structures come together and what would be considered strong and what would be considered not strong. And one of the things that is huge, particularly in, and you'll have to stop me if anyone's eyes start to glaze over, but in helicopters, because they do so many fatigue cycles, there's a concept called safe life and fail safe. And I sort of approached my boat selection criteria with that in mind. And when they say safe life, they mean a certain amount of cycles to failure. And then when you say fail safe, what they mean is it will fail in a safe way. And that's essentially redundancy or but making it so strong that it will just never fail. There's the whole reason I had a job as an aerospace engineer is because some parts that are particularly critical due to certain constraints, you just can't make them fail safe. And so you must have a safe life, and they must have an inspection interval and so on and so forth. And a lot of the parts of a lot of the boats that we were looking at, I would look at them and I'd say there's just no way that a boat put together the way it has been put together at our price range and at these ages are going to be reasonable for me. I'm going to need to rip them apart and check all these bits, and basically, even though it looks great, I don't think it will be. Which brought us to the 40-year-old designs, which were fail safe.
I mean, I think you just touched on something quite significant there, because, I spent quite a lot of time thinking about how the boat industry has developed to where it is today, how designs moved from what was to what is, and there's a point in time that suddenly there was a cataclysmic change in boat building, which was about 35, 40 years ago. In 1981, I can be fairly precise, I saw the first...
Very specific.
Yeah, well, I was almost finishing... I'd almost finished my first boat, which was a steel endurance, steel 35-foot endurance called Corsa, and I'd almost finished building that. And there was, in this day, because things are different in those days, not many people really bought a boat, went to a boat show. I don't even think there was probably Earl's Court boat show, but not really anywhere else. And everybody else that were people that wanted to go off sailing around the world, actually at that time were your age, was my age at the time, 30 odd. And they, obviously didn't have the same budget. And so there was about 5 boats in quite a small yard in Canvey Island, Essex. And there was about 5 guys building their boats to bugger off and sail around the world. And one day, as I say, I was right towards the end of the build of Corsa. There was a trailer came in with a Sadler 29 on it. And the Sadler 29 had, I think it may have been the first, I don't know, but it certainly had the first bolt-on kill that I'd ever seen. And literally, people, the 5 of us that were building boats, kind of whistled up amongst ourselves, didn't have mobile phones, of course, whistled up amongst ourselves and said, Christ, you should see what's just come in the yard, And we all went down and stood at the bottom of this boat, still on the trailer, and looked up at this, tiny thin keel, which was bolted on with a very exposed rudder. And everybody just shook their head and went, oh, Christ, where are you going to go in that? That's no bloody good. And we really did all shake our heads and go back on our boats going, silly arse, who's going to go off in that?
Little did you know in the next few years.
Little did I know this was the forerunner to completely change the whole marine industry. And from there, because of the development of production boats, what essentially in a sort of automotive production line style, little did we know that that was going to change the whole world. And the big names that we knew, and we just, I used to dream, wouldn't it be good if I didn't have to buy my own boat, build my own boat? I could maybe buy a Rival 32 or a Nicholson 32 or a Contessa or a Bowman or there was dozens of boats you could buy, and they all had the same stamp. And then this thing turns up, and it's kind of, just honestly, I know it sounds bizarre, but it was considered to be a joke at that time. Really a joke. You're not going to go anywhere in that. And everybody agreed. But, and now you fast forward 40 years to your time of coming to do and make those selections. And here you go, and everybody you go and talk to is going to tell you, oh, no, that's quite fine. And so, it's very intriguing to me. And as I said to you, I've already said to you, credit to you guys for sifting through all the nonsense and coming up with a very sound boat built by Taeyang in Taiwan. And I found Taeyang, this is interesting, I think, to you. I found Taeyang because I had decided, I'd sold my yacht Corsa several years before and got ensconced and buried in, business life and family life. And it was now, I was getting to the age of, I was 50, getting to the age where, hey, I might be able to get away and do some proper sailing again. And so I started to look at the kind of boats that I could buy. And I was doing all right in business, and budget wasn't really the issue. But I started looking at all these boats, names that I knew, big names that I knew, that everybody's still familiar with today in some areas. Hang on a minute, it's got a bolt-on kill. Oh, it's got blade-hung rudders. Hang on, that doesn't work. All I'm thinking about is this is a bigger version of that Sadler 29 I saw 30, 40 years ago. And I immediately discounted all of those and thought, right, I've got to try and find a boat that ticks the boxes. And I found it by researching and reading a magazine write-up. I'm going to say it was Sail magazine. And they had a review of 50-foot boat, best-selling 50-foot boats in America. And I knew all of them except number 3, which was Tayana. And I was as far east.
It was only at number 3?
It was, yeah, it was, yeah. And I was, I was a China trader by this time. And you know, I wasn't going to Taiwan very often on business, but I was in China and Hong Kong quite often. So I thought, well, I'll go there. And I went there, and to my complete amazement, there was exactly the boat I was looking for, with, of course, same as yours, integral keel, full skeg rudder, built like a brick something house. And and you know, off we went, and I sailed 150,000 miles in that boat, or more than that actually, and it was fantastic. But it never let me down once. There was never a time, and you know, you've done now. I know you're at the beginning of your sailing sort of careers and stuff, and you've been across the pond already and done a fair bit. But as time goes on, you're going to run into those bad situations that, you know, you wish you'd forecast differently or whatever, and seen that shot come in or whatever. And
we've already had a few of them.
Yeah, you have had quite a lot of them, actually, things going wrong, haven't you? But the Tayana 58, Moon Shadow, I called her, never missed a beat, never let me down once. And I never had to be fearful that she was going to let me down. That's quite, and the thing I tell people now when we're talking to them about Krakens is, you know, just explain to me how you can enjoy yourself when you're frightened, because you can't, can you?
Yeah,
it's not possible. Yeah. You know, you can have that sort of silly, oh yeah, I'm having fun face.
I am under duress.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we first bought our boat as well, it was nice knowing that we were complete and utter newbies at this. We were complete learners, but we knew that the boat could handle so much more than us. And whatever us newbies would throw at it, she would almost compensate for that and do the right thing. And as us, it really helped us, I think.
She did, yeah.
Like, we could grow into it.
Yeah, well, John Kretschmer, who's, of course, our common friend, was, you know, he did... he wrote an article, or was actually interviewed by Dick Durham, who, by the way, I must just apologise. He's gone off sailing, so I'm not sure.
Reason.
We won't begrudge him that.
I'm not sure I should say this, but you'll have to put up with one Dick instead of two.
What are you going to say when you had the interview with these guys?
Oh yeah, I know Dick likes a good pun. Yeah. And I was listening to one of your podcasts, and it occurred to me that, you know, like a dog with two tails. Well, I'm as happy as a sailor with two dicks.
Yeah, well, that's nice to know. Yeah, well, he's not here. He's gone off sailing, and we can't we can't knock him for that. But yeah, I know where we. Oh, you were talking about John. Anyway, Dick interviewed John, and John said, you know, what you need is a boat that you don't have to micromanage. She'll look after herself. Yeah. And you know. Here's the bit that you've undoubtedly discovered, and you could go back to the sailors of old and find out, whatever has happened in this world, the sea ain't changed. And in fact, if anything, the storms have got bigger.
It's getting worse.
Yeah,
exactly. It's getting worse.
I was just
you need to be more prepared than ever.
Yeah. I mean, how many times in the last 5 years has the next hurricane season gotten worse? You know, it's always like, oh, this hurricane season's going to be worse than last year, and everyone's like, oh, goodness me. Yeah. And the next year comes along and they say the same thing, and you're like, bloody hell. Yeah. So we've been sailing around the Caribbean for too long. We've been calling it hurricane season.
Well, it's actually, you know, it's probably a bit of an aside to what we're generally talking about, but one I've noticed over my lifetime of sailing, that the seasons have changed and expanded. Yes, the storms have got more violent, but at the same stage, also the typhoon seasons, the disturbed season, which is always the summer season, has actually got longer and more unreliable too. Because, you know, when I was first sailing the South China Seas 30 odd years ago, you knew that the northeast monsoon was going to start somewhere around about 7th to 14th of October. And you knew...
That accurate.
Yeah. Wow. And you knew that the south east monsoon, which is the disturbed one where you got lots more disturbance coming in, you knew that was going to start somewhere around about the 7th to the 20th maybe of April. But now you've got so many more occurrences happening outside the season. You know, I mean, people laughingly joke and say, oh, well, you know, Typhoon hasn't read the book. I mean, that's so true. You know, I've been caught a couple of times in the South China Sea with forming typhoons that are right out of season. And of course, you know, it's just the way the world's going. So coming back to your point there, Khiara, you know, you need a boat that's well prepared.
Yeah.
Yes, but see, you're all missing one thing. We can all outrun the weather these days. So it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. We can all outrun the weather. So it's this is all a moot point.
Well, let's just tell the listeners. Let's just tell the listeners where that little one came from, because we were laughing about it over several beers, of course. Where that one came from is I was at a Sydney boat show, and I'd been talking to a guy that was really interested in buying a boat, and he came over to Sydney Boat Show. It was a Kiwi, and he called me up and he says, "Hey, Dick, you know, you're at the show." So I said, "Yeah, I am, Ivan." He said, "Oh, I've got to come and see you." And I won't go through the whole thing because the podcast will be half gone, but and he said, he's just been told, he just asked, I don't know if I should say the word, you know. Oh, I have. And oh dear. And he asked the Geno salesman if the Geno 54 he was looking at would be okay in heavy weather. And the guy, to cut a long story short, said, "You'll never know, sir, because this boat is so fast, she'll outrun the weather." And that's what that's what you picked up on it, right? Yeah. And I mean, this is criminal, really, isn't it? You know,
that to me is like a soldier running into battle with no body armor and going, "It's okay, guys, I have really fast reflexes." Yeah, it's cool. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So listen, you've now started banging this drum, which is trying to educate people into the kind of boat that they really need for blue water. I think you said before, the YouTube video you did with John Kay, you said that that was really your biggest hit, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, second for sure. Yeah, the how much does it cost one was number one, but that was a close second. And I think that
what was
there's
it titled?
What really makes a blue water cruiser with John Krushmar, and you know, I think that's a question. So to answer the larger question is our quest, I suppose, and we've put ourselves in a delicate position because we've been doing this for 5 years now, and we've just crossed our first ocean and we've only owned one boat. So we're not, we're 30, 32 and 33, so we can't come and throw our weight around because the obvious defense is, well, what would you know? And also, I don't want to just go around, even if I had any weight to throw around, I don't want to go around and start ramming things down people's throats saying, your boats are wrong, you can't. What my goal is to be a conduit through which I can distill information and wisdom from people like John and like yourself and anyone who will sit down and talk to me, and distill the common theme down and put it out to as many people as possible, because that is, in my mind, the anti-boat show. That's how you take, all that salesman malarkey and you combat it with real world wisdom and real experience that is timeless. And like you said, the ocean hasn't changed. So that's my mission, is to try and get the truth, like the true wisdom from those who would know out there, who have no agenda, who have nothing to gain by saying, no, you want this boat, not that boat, or that boat, not this boat. It's just experience, true experience. And a lot of these people, they don't have YouTube channels and they don't want to make videos, and so it's my job to go and sniff them out, sit down with them, and I feel like if I do that enough, I can give people enough examples of a common theme that they will eventually go to the boat show guy, and somebody one day will turn around and say, "I don't believe you. Prove it." And he will have to go, and he will just have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, of course, one of the problems that I run into, and now constantly, didn't run into the problem before I started cracking yachts. I had the same message going on then, but is that people think that I have got an ulterior motive, which is to sell Kraken yachts. And of course, I do want to sell Kraken yachts. That's why I started the company. But actually, for me, that's not the crack. Dick and I just recently wrote an article, and it's another interesting point here, because just give me the age of Millie, will you, and tell me how old she is.
She's from
40.
She's from 1981, so she's exactly 40 years old.
She might have been built the same year as I saw that Sadler 29, mightn't she?
I think she would have been, yeah.
Yeah, it was the same year.
Yeah.
That. But we recently did an article. A lady had written into Ocean Sailor and said, look, I think the boats are fantastic, but being straight, my budget doesn't run to that. And what's your advice for a boat, that we could buy? And Dick and I both agreed this. And obviously, you've elucidated that point even more, because we sat down, Dick and I, and said, well, unfortunately, you got to go back a minimum of 30 years to find the kind of boat that you really want. And you did, and it was 40 years ago. So it wasn't our imagination, was it?
No, exactly. And all the boats that we looked at as well were all around that age, that era.
Well, they would be.
Yeah,
they would be. What kind of happened back then? A boat that won races was also a good blue water cruising boat, and that's just. And people weren't buying boats to win races. There wasn't even that racing industry. Yeah, sure, there was the America's Cup and J Class for the super wealthy, but the rest of the sailing fraternity were going and doing the Fastnet, or going and doing Sydney to Hobart or Bermuda race or something else. They were going and doing that in the boats they were regularly sailing. But then money got in the way, really, and super wealthy guys wanted to start getting designers on board and building in super light composites, and having boats built. Really, it sounds unbelievable, but it's going on even now. Building boats that would cost a fortune to build to win one race, and it all suddenly started to change. And obviously that costs the boat builders, the names I mentioned a little while ago, a large part of their sales. And before you know where you are, the whole industry has diverged, and racing boats have gone off in one direction, and cruising boats stayed in another. But of course, then you've got the next phase, which is and it was only, I'm going to guess it was, it's 2 or 3 years after that divergence first started. I'm going to say that people started spending big money to win races probably around about maybe 1976, 77, 78, somewhere about there. Not many people, and it was a long time ago. But they were the first people doing it. And not long after that, of course, which we've discussed, you got the body blow to the industry of the production boats suddenly arise on the scene. And then they started to create a great attrition in the sales for the bigger, for the names that we've just been talking about. And then there was this invention, and I don't know why, why you didn't buy a boat that could do all of these things. Performance cruiser, they call it. And or racer cruiser. It was called a racer cruiser first off, and then it became this performance cruiser, and the boat for all answers. I bet you got a bit of a view on those.
But how did blue water get involved? Like, how did crossing oceans?
That's the part that rubs me out the wrong way. Is because the performance cruiser, for its mission profile, is a wonderful boat. It's a beautiful machine.
Absolutely.
Why did they need to go and take a whole different thing and take? It's like they're just collecting all the badges they can get, slapping it on a boat that was built for charter, and jacking up the price tag with no apparent change in design. That's what really rubs me up the wrong way.
Actually, well, two things happened. Why is because of accountants. And the companies that are in these fields need more and more sales, more and more profits, growth. As a species, we're transfixed with this whole idea that we got to grow suddenly. We're not ever satisfied.
More.
Yeah, more. And so they needed a bigger slice of the market. But something else happened at the same time, which is a bit of a touchy old subject. And I can refer people to the article back to the article that John did with Dick Durham, because he has been very bold. And what happened is the big names that you're going to associate with blue water cruising historically decided, actually, we're losing a bit too much market, and we need to start building boats for more of a mass market. So I don't think the production boat companies started going after the blue water tag first. They do now, of course. But I think what actually happened is the blue water boat builders, names that are on the very tip of my tongue, but I don't think I'll mention. They decided they wanted to be performance cruisers, and suddenly that gives them 50, 60, 70 boats a year they can build, instead of and steal some of the thunder back from the production boats. And as John put it, what that brought about was the advent of a luxury production boat, and that's really, in my view, all it was. Okay. And of course, you've then got the thing going on, which is, first question anybody asks is, oh yeah, nice, how many berths has it got? And it's all the wrong questions, and straight away, you're lost, and that's something obviously you've been fighting against.
Yeah, well, it's we get a lot of grief anytime I put my foot out or put my neck out on this subject. We always cop flack. What would you know? Blah blah blah. And one of the most common fallback answers is that there's no perfect boat. There's no perfect boat, and I think that almost proved that's a defense that other people put back on me. And I say, well, I'm not trying to find the perfect boat. I'm trying to find what really makes a blue water boat. And yet what the designers seem to be doing is everyone is chasing down to a single point, this performance cruiser, and saying that it can do everything, which is kind of all a bit arsey-versey to me, because what they're telling me that I'm doing is exactly what's happening, and I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to take one very specific mission profile for a boat, ocean voyaging, blue water cruising, and say, let's keep it in the lines, fellas. Let's keep this what it is. Let's not go and try to just be the best at everything. Like you can have your performance cruises. You can have them. You can sleep 12 people. We're going out with John next week or 2 weeks time. We're going out with John in 2 weeks' time on a Beneteau 50, 5 double berths. I mean, that's
5 berths.
We're only going to just poodle down the
in a 50.
In a 50, right?
It's going to be 10 people aboard.
Yeah,
take your antiperspirants.
Yeah, right. So for charter,
we're going to be bumping up against each other. How are you going to do that when underway?
It's going to be cozy.
5 people are going to have to go downstairs. 5 people in the cockpit who are sailing.
I didn't know it had gone that
going to
far.
Work?
Blimey, 10.
So I mean, for poodling down the Amalfi though, that's kind of fine. As long as you stay in your lane, you can have what you want. Just don't slap $1.2 million price tag on it and tell me I can go around the horn in it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's what rubs me up the wrong way.
You're dead right, and I'd just like to reiterate that point as well, because when first time I ever met Dick Durham, bless his cotton socks, is that he called me up and said he'd got a mail shot from me and wanted to do an interview with a YouTube channel that he was also doing some stuff for, which is My Classic Boat. And he said, I'd like to interview you down at Southampton. Oh, bloody hell. I didn't realise at the time he lived about 3 miles from me. So we both trolled off to Southampton. We could have walked round the corner, as it turned out. Anyway, we got
You're
down
probably driving behind each other on the way.
Yeah. We got down to Southampton, and he's a clever little person. and, and he set he set the camera up on a sort of a bluff, and he's a terrier, you know, Dick, because he's an ex-Fleet Street journalist, and he's like a dog with a bone, you know, and it's great, and he's trying to get a story. So I think I'm going down there to all be, you know, told how great and how clever I am and all that stuff, and isn't this all wonderful? And he drew me in tried to draw me straight onto a landmine. So he said, "Oh yes, I've been hearing about, you know, this zero kill and da 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 da, and you know, kill can never come off." And then he stopped. He got all this choreographed, and he waved his arms around like this, and he said, "So you're telling me all of the 1,500 boats that we can see from here are not fit for purpose?" And luckily for me, a little bit of inspiration came in, and I said, "Tell me the purpose." And he said, "Good point."
Good answer.
Yeah. And I said, "Listen, I'm not knocking any of those boats, but it's fantastic because they brought loads and loads of people into boating and yachting that could never have got into it otherwise because the prices and everything. And for, you know, whizzing across the channel and for a couple of weeks holiday or zooming around the Mediterranean, yeah, absolutely, you can't get me to criticise that. But as you quite rightly said, if you start saying that that's the same boat that can start to cross oceans, actually now I'm going to disagree with you seriously, and obviously that's where you're coming from as well, it would seem.
Yeah, and it goes both ways, you know. My boat, like we're just crossed the pond for the first time, and it's sort of, you know, it's not like the Caribbean where the anchorages are everywhere. And for mariners, this boat's a pain in the ass. Like, it's hard. It doesn't back up in a straight line. I haven't got a bow thruster. Like, it's seriously stressful to try and come in and maneuver this thing. So that's you know, it's horses for courses.
Yeah.
If you want to poodle around marinas and stay on the coast, well, don't have a boat like this. Get something that'll turn on a dime, back up in a straight line, and can sleep 100 people. That's totally fine. My point is, every boat has their ups and their downs. You know, you have to make compromises to be a blue water boat too. Like, you're not going to be racing around pins very quickly and all of those kind of things. But we all know that nobody buys a blue water boat and takes it out for a river racing weekend or something. They, you know, it's for the profile, for the mission profile.
Yeah, I mean, the first question I ask everybody that we talk to is, tell me what you want to do with your boat. And if they want to, you know, have a boat around the Med and go off on holiday, yeah, they might want a Kraken yacht. It's a nicely built boat and it's very luxurious. But they don't, look, I've got to be honest, they don't need a Kraken yacht for that. If you're going to go off and sail across the Atlantic or the Pacific or the South China Seas or up into the higher latitudes, yeah, you're going to need a boat that's not going to let you down. And that's obviously why I founded the company. And we won't build anything else. We're not into building, you know, and I've had, of course, loads of nutty ideas and people telling me, oh, you know, they want to change the entire design and lay out the boat. And I must admit, I've never heard anybody ask for 10 berths in a 50, but I have heard had one guy that wanted 10 berths in a 58, and I just said, you're just never going to have the storage capacity that you need to go blue water cruising. And, you know, he wouldn't have it, and then he wanted to...
All the 10 people to even visit. So many people think that all these family members are going to come visit, and it's just not the case. We've had 2 people at every time to come and visit, which is great, because we have a V-berth to fit 2 more people. Handle, That's it. And now I'm perfectly happy with that. But I mean, as you said before, like, you knew that you wanted a boat to... Also, you built Kraken to kind of go across oceans. And while it can do that... and while it can poodle around the Med, you know, you built it to be more hardcore than that and cross oceans. And I think the reason why we bought this boat, even though we have just been in the Caribbean for 3 years, we knew that we wanted to go far and wide with it. That was our main aim when we were back in Melbourne and we were thinking, oh, where do we want to go? Everywhere. So we knew that we had to get a boat to do that, even though our first few years were just in like cruising grounds that were pretty benign.
See, this is why I like the Kraken, and I'm not blowing smoke up here, but this is why I sought
No,
you
go on,
guys out first.
do. It's good.
Please tell me more. You can put my commission in the mail. No, well, this is why I sought you guys out, because as I said before, like, where the fictitious enemy here would have us all believe that boats are culminating to a single point that is perfection, and it's not. But we can get better within our lane, and that's why I like the Kraken, is because it is very unapologetically built for one thing, and it's taken everything I love about this boat and all the criteria that I had for my mission profile and brought it forward, brought it to the 21st century with new technology, new materials, and all these things that that you should get for a brand new boat in this day and age. That's why I love it, and you can't find that anymore. What instead you get is you get them saying, no, what you think you want is not right. What you think you want is not right. Actually, these days we can outrun the weather, and a boat made of wafer biscuits
at the same time
with 200 beds is suitable.
Do you know something you might also have spotted about what's going on as well? And again, I'm thinking about the brands that have been associated with blue water cruising that, in my view, have now sold their soul and started to do nutty things like, twin rudders and all the rest of it. They're coming up with what are so ludicrous gimmicks to try and convince people there's still blue water yachts. I mean, a cabin door that is supposed to be waterproof, sealed when you shut it in the aft cabin. Oh, yeah, great. Okay. Well, first off, then they're missing out a bit that there's got to be a whole nother process. It's not just shutting the door, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But,
don't submarines have that with like the thing,
of
the
course,
bars and the...
Yeah, well, there's a process. So now you're only really watertight in that cabin if you lock somebody in it. I mean, great, oh, let me out, and have you try and conceive how a boat is going to be punctured in that aft cabin or midship? I've seen boats sink by the bow. I've seen boats sink by the stern. I'm imagining they must at very least have watertight bulkheads, full watertight bulkheads fore and aft. So, so why are you trying to put a gimmick like a watertight door amidships? What's it achieve? And then, peepholes in your hull that you can see the propeller and see if there's something stuck round it. I mean, come on, it's a gimmick, isn't it? I mean, I'm not having to go.
I don't know what boat you're talking about. I'm lost.
I have no idea what boat this is.
We know which boats we're talking about, and I'm not even trying to look. People can go and find that out for themselves. What I'm against is the smoke and mirrors telling people, telling people, hey, look, this is a cruising boat, a blue water cruising boat, and it's got twin blade rudders that will smash into everything that's out of line with the keel. And gimmick after gimmick after gimmick. And I feel poor mugs are believing it. I mean, actually, we head into another soapbox of mine that I must tell you guys, we've just won a terrific victory because I've been bashing on for several years through Ocean Sailor and before that about how culpable the RCD Category A ocean certification is, how dreadfully misleading it is, and how the European Commission that have got it in place really have got thing to answer, because the criteria that it's ruled by is false 8 winds and 4 metre seas. Well, good luck, because you aren't going to cross an ocean. Well, you might get 1 or 2 lucky crossings, but that's not going to happen as a normal thing. And then
I think we've hit force 8.
Yeah,
I was going to say we've hit like force 8 in the Caribbean.
That's a normal day in the Caribbean.
It's not windy. It's not windy, is it? And to say that that's the criteria, and then put the word ocean. But the win is, after all this pressure, they haven't done what I wanted them to do. which is bring in, we can call it a category A star or something for boats that really, really are built to take it. What they have done, which I consider a victory, is they've dropped the word ocean.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And this is going to help
That's
your
really
cause.
good.
And this is why I want to encourage you
That's
to
good.
carry on banging the drum that you're banging, because by the fact that now people can't go along and simply rely on a European Commission to tell them what boat they should buy, actually now they've got to start thinking about it. And people like you is going to help. And well done, guys.
Did they rationalise why they did that? Like, did they,
No,
when they announced the change, did they say like, oh, we can't say ocean anymore because that puts us in a legal nightmare where we might be culpable or something?
No, of course they just slid it under the radar,
Yeah,
and
I can't
suddenly
imagine.
suddenly the
I don't
word
understand how they
ocean
tried
is
to define
missing.
an ocean.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can't define what an ocean is going to be like. You can't.
Well, it needs to be high. The bar needs to be bloody high.
Yeah, you can get in as much trouble in a sea as an ocean, really. And I mean, so, but anyway,
That's
at
true.
least it's not telling people, hey, which
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it did tell people, hey, you can sail around the world in this boat. I mean, I knocked on to you a video that we've both just watched, which was which was
I
sent
was
to
going to bring that up.
yeah, was sent to me by the owner of the Kraken 004 that's in build here now, and he sent me that. I must admit, I just woo, and
You should link it below.
let's
For
do that.
anybody watching.
We'll put a link on there so people can see what we're particularly talking about. But it's out there as a YouTube video, and it's a Lagoon Cat 50, I think, and you know it's obviously breaking up.
You can
Oh,
see the
no.
gaps opening up.
I know.
The joinery is coming apart.
And it was going downwind. I mean, woo!
It wasn't even that bad
Was
of a
it?
day.
It
So
was
it wasn't even
honestly,
backing up wind?
honestly, Khiara, that was downwind, and the thing
Oh,
is
no.
moaning like a herd of cattle. And I mean, Jesus,
Oh,
and
no.
I mean, it wasn't even that bad. He put
No.
a camera down in that video. He put it down on the floor, and it stayed where it was. So it can't have been that bad outside, you know? Like, when it's really
Yeah.
pumping, the boat's going to be, like, rocking and rolling. Nothing's going to stay where you put it, even on a cat. It can't
Yeah.
have been that bad. So imagine when it's,
Sea
like,
conditions.
3 times
and yet
that.
that catamaran, still today, everyone that's being built is going to be RCD category A. You tell me. I mean,
That's the thanks for coming badge.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
insane.
it's just wrong. I mean, it is. I do, you know, never mind about cracking yachts or anything else. Just, you know, if you did that in a car, in the
Yeah.
car industry, how would you get on? You know, and the
Yeah.
car, you know, you call
If
it
you
an
said, yes, it can
off-roader.
go up mountains. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you've
It's
got
like
an
you said when we
off-roader.
sit down to talk. You could cross the desert in a Fiat, but you'd take the Land Cruiser.
Well, yeah.
Like, it's, you know, like we all
Yeah.
know.
Well, I have to say, I found that enlightening, Dick. You know, the strange thing is for me is that he's a young man, Adam, and he's done a lot of sailing, a lot of offshore sailing. And he is a chap that would have come across the modern type of boat, the sort of boats that we say perhaps aren't the right ones for doing blue water sailing. And he is dismissing them. So it isn't just us. It isn't just us
No,
because we're behind Kraken. This guy has made his own mind up and has reinforced the message. And I think
yeah,
that's
both
quite,
of them, Dick. You know, both Adam and Khiara, they're out there banging the drum on a message that you and I, you know, irrespective of Kraken, that I really,
Sure.
and I know you really believe is an important one, because in our view, and as you've just heard, I certainly believe that the marine industry or the modern yacht building industry has somehow derailed itself and gone off in a path that, you know, is not sufficient for the kind of sailing that, you know, we've often talked about, blue water cruising
Sure.
and world cruising. But, you know, I tell you what, Dick, you know, he's trying hard, this guy, and fair play to him. And I hope people do appreciate how, you know, how he's trying to, you know, basically spread the word and give the benefit to sometimes people, as you've just put the nail on the head, that sometimes a lot more experienced than Adam and Khiara are, but actually he's put a lot of thought into it. What I'm going to tell you is what is particularly aggravating is to hear the complete and utter denial of the bloody obvious that is still being bantered about out there. And I'm going to tell you, Dick, have a listen to a podcast that was done by a guy called Andy Schell, if you've heard of him.
I have, yes.
And
we have dealt with him.
Yeah, it's called, they call the podcast On the Wind. And,
right.
And essentially it was around the table debate. And I know this because I've spoken to Adam since. I was furious when I heard it, I must tell you. I felt that they were very frustrated. And to me, as a listener, every time they tried to make a very salient point, they were either cut off or talked over.
Really?
And, which didn't really win the point for me. Obviously the person that controls the mic is in control. But if you're going to have an open discussion and a round table discussion, it seems to me it behoves the host to allow their guests to speak properly, and I don't feel that is what happened. Adam might disagree, but that's my feeling.
Oh, really?
It was outrageous because the tenor of the argument, I'll put this to you, the tenor of the argument is that since there is no recorded percentage that's been calculated of kills that are coming off of yachts, and compared to yachts that are having safe passages, but because there's no actual compiled log of that, we know there's a compiled log of yachts coming off of racing boats as over 90, right, Dick? You did that study.
We did. It appeared in an early Ocean Sailor magazine.
Yeah.
If you remember,
but
that was the World Sailing Body.
But his argument, unbelievable, is because nobody has compared the yachts that have had accidents to the yachts that have had safe passages with bolt-on kills, therefore it doesn't exist. And I'll tell you what, you won't get your breath. Honestly, no. I've never heard such a lot of old nonsense, and it's wrong because and I know why I started Kraken was because I believe that you have to have a boat that is going to de-risk in every case, and accidents out there are going to happen. But as I've said before, put aside Kraken, it's just wrong to tell people they're not taking a risk when they're sailing across oceans with twin rudders and blade hung rudders and all the rest of it. Just ridiculous. Because we could say that 90 yachts in, I think it was 25 years, was it World Sailing, Dick, that gave you that?
It was World Sailing, yes, that's right. We spoke to Simon Forbes, the offshore technical manager there.
Yeah.
And even he said, we don't know, it's not an exhaustive list because, as you rightly say, it was mostly racing boats, or all racing boats, I believe. He said there are others we don't know about because crews haven't survived.
Well, that's it. Some, sailors go missing. They don't, they've gone missing. They don't know why they've gone missing necessarily. If it's no black box generally, is there?
No.
So.
But I mean, that is essentially, Dick. Your point is, and you've always been very even-handed about the whole argument. You're not saying that all these boats with bolt-on kills, twin rudders, are not fit for purpose. They are fit for purpose, but they're not fit for the purpose of risk-free blue water sailing. That's what they're not.
That's the whole argument. And to tell people that 90 boats whose keels come off, often with a loss of life, is inconsequential when assessing a boat to go off and sail around the world with your family and friends.
Yeah.
To say that's that's just all hot air. A few keels come off. That's just unbelievable. But it is Andy Schell's position. He's an experienced yachtsman.
He is, yes, of course. But it is irresponsible. I think he's just, I don't know. It seems very odd to me why anyone would want to sort of come out with that. But there you go.
Yeah, I'll give you the answer to that, Dick. The phrase is cognitive dissonance. and
Okay.
was thrown over to me by actually a listener to us when we were talking about it something before. We got a comment come in, and cognitive dissonance, I should say, means the defence of something you are already invested in. So, in other words, and the truth of the matter is, Andy Shell's got a swan with a blade-hung rudder and a bolt-on keel. So, yeah, he's going to defend it to the end of the earth. But it ain't going to stick, and it ain't going to work because it's not right.
No.
Anyhow,
No,
that's
I would agree with that. That's
as you
right.
can see,
Yeah.
it did get my hackles up. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to do, Dick. I am going to throw the gauntlet down. I'll throw it down now, and I'd like to invite Andy Shell onto our podcast, and he can try and defend what I figure is the indefensible.
Fair enough. Well, why not? Will there be a deathly silence?
Perhaps there will, yeah. But anyway,
perhaps there won't be.
having said
Yeah.
that, I really, enjoyed doing the podcast with Adam and Khiara. And, we got part 2 coming up next, not far off. We'll try and get that
That's
out
good.
quite soon, eh?
And I guess in part 2, Adam and Khiara haven't changed their mind since speaking to Andy Shell.
No, actually, Dick, we the Andy Shell thing was quite recent. I did
Oh,
that.
sorry, okay.
I did
Right.
this. I did the podcast with Adam and Khiara a good few weeks ago.
Oh, right.
and
okay.
it's only how crazy busy Kraken got that obviously has slowed us down from getting it out. So
Fair enough.
I think this is a couple of 3 weeks ago, the Andy Shell.
Oh, right. Okay.
We're publicising it, and I think at least he might accept that all publicity is good publicity, but he
There's
might not
another view.
necessarily agree how I'm describing it. But anyway,
Oh, fair enough.
that'll
Okay.
have to be tough, won't it?
We shall see.
Yeah, we should see.
We wait with bated breath.
We wait with that. Yes, there's the invitation, Andy.
Yeah, you've thrown down the sailing mitten.
All right. Anyway, that's
Right.
that's about all from us. We're
right.
desperate. Just like to say, listeners, we're desperately sorry for all of the delays in getting these out. It's all my fault or Kraken's fault, really. But we will catch up, and Dick and I do enjoy doing them. And we've got lots more subjects lined up.
We have indeed. Victim of your own success, Dick, by the sounds of it.
Well, there you go. Let's hope so.
So after the part 2 of Adam and Khiara, we've got, of course, Brian Troutman of Delos, the Project Delos. Really nice guy. I've spoken to him before. We interviewed him for the magazine. He's coming on to do a podcast, and I'm looking forward very much to that, because he's a well-balanced man, very philosophical outlook on life, great sailor, very modest, but very articulate. So that'll be good.
Yeah, he is. We're going to do with him the psychology of crews at sea on passage, and it's a subject I absolutely love. I must tell you, I've had I think it's such an interesting subject, and there is a significant psychological effect on crew when they're out there on that big ocean with a big sky over their head. And we had a lot of we'll have a lot of fun doing that interview. It'd be interesting,
brilliant.
very interesting. I'm
Very
sure.
good, very good man to do it with. The strange thing is, I was considering the American sailors for an article I wrote some while ago over the UK chaps, and they're very open. American sailors, they're very kind of candid. They open their hearts up about mistakes they've made, and I really admire that.
Yeah,
That's
they
something
do, actually.
UK
You're
guys
right
don't
there.
do quite so much.
Yeah, you get people.
Yeah.
Good old Brits don't want to give anything away, perhaps, but
No, maybe.
When you're right, actually, I'd not thought of that, Dick. But if they make a mistake and go aground, or make some sort of a significant decision error, instead of trying to kind of sweep it under the carpet like as we do in Brits, but
That's right.
they actually put it out there and let everybody learn from it. It's not a bad
They do.
thing. eh?
No, not at all. They embrace it, and because they know that these things happen. Worse things happen at sea, as they say, and of course, quite often they do, and you've got to get out of those
Yeah.
problems.
Well,
yeah, true enough.
Well, anyway, I think we should close the podcast now because the crooked billet beckons, doesn't it, Dick? We're off for a beer, eh?
They've got a Christmas tree twinkling outside, so I think we should go inside and listen to the not just the tinkling of the bell opening, but perhaps Santa's on the roof. Okay, well, let's go then. Well, I was just got a bit of a payoff line for you, Dick. I know you quite like to hear me come up with these. I was just going to say that so the bolt-on keel of fate has hit the container of destiny, and that was the end of that particular boat. But the good news is all the crew have been brought ashore in time for Christmas. Thank you.
God. More and more tenuous. I think you'll sink with that one, Dick.
Yeah, I think you could be right.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.